So we're going to be talking about developing apps for tablets. And we have 3 great speakers here. And I know the names, but they're much better than me at, first of all, introducing themselves, and B, telling me and telling us what exactly they've been doing around tablet lately. So Ben, do you want to start?
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a cop-out. So, yeah, I'm Ben Medlock, co-founder of a company called TouchType. We're fundamentally a language technology company, and we have core technology around language inference, which the key business model is licensing to OEMs and platform vendors. However, we built a demo application on smartphones called Swiftkey, and it's now been downloaded over 3 million times and has kind of taken on a bit of a life of its own. And relevant to tablet is the fact that Swiftkey is essentially a keyboard that uses the underlying language technology, but we started thinking about what it would be like to build a keyboard for tablets and how that should be different to smartphones. And I guess that's probably why I'm here.
Hello there. I'm Mills. I'm Chief Wonka over at ustwo. Wonka, by the way. The Studio Dreams over in East London. I guess the reason I'm up here is that we spend a large portion of the money we make releasing our own apps and making absolutely no money with them. And we've released 3 tablet apps over the last year. Nursery Rhymes with Storytime, Papercut more recently, and last year Granimator. So this afternoon I'm actually going to talk in sort of some detail about those 3, but yeah, I guess that's why I'm up here.
All right.
And my name is Ilicco Elia, but Elia is fine because Ilicco sort of sounds like a bit like a disease. And I'm head of mobile at Reuters. I was head of mobile at Reuters till about 3 months ago. I lived there. I lived there for 20 years, and I'm now head of mobile at LBI, where I look after all our clients, and where they have a mobile, where our clients touch mobile, I try and make them touch mobile better, or maybe make mobile touch them better, depending how you look at it. But we have clients like Lloyds Bank, Virgin Atlantic, Capital One, Compare the Market, and all these sort of big companies basically who are looking to introduce mobile into the middle of the mix of everything else that they do. So it's not just about mobile as a separate application or a separate website. It's right at the core of everything they do.
All right. So first question I would have is, when people hear tablet, 80% of them think iPad. Is that also the case for you?
There's more than 80%, isn't it? So can I do, who has a, come on, all right, let's start properly. Who has a mobile phone? Yep, good. Who has 2 mobile phones? Is the other one an iPhone? Yeah, good. And who has a tablet and a laptop? Who's brought their tablets with them? Who's brought the tablets and their laptops with them? Quick fire quiz, come on. So just 2 people have bought a tablet and a laptop. If tablets are so good, why do you need the laptop with you as well? That's the question I understand. Because of the keyboard. So I think it's really interesting that actually tablets and laptops are not yet replacing, or tablets are not yet replacing laptops.
So how many people have just bought a tablet?
And which one? Who's bought an iPad?
Who's not bought an iPad?
Who's not bought an iPad?
Well done. Wee.
More importantly, in many ways, like who's got an iPad but actually has no idea why they have an iPad? Because oh, good, one of us, or both of us. Because I think only recently I kind of truly understood why I thought I might understand why I got one. I started using the Times app because I get a free subscription. And it's really useful at delivering my paper essentially to me every single day. And I kind of started using it over the Guardian app that I used to use on my iPhone app, iPad on my iPhone. So yeah, I don't know. I find it amazing that I do have my laptop over there and my iPad, and I kind of jump between both of them.
So, but you're doing only Android development?
No.
With Swiftkey? No? Tell us more. Because most people would know Swiftkey for Android.
Yeah, so the reason we focused on Android was because you can swap the default keyboard. So it made a lot of sense for us in terms of demoing the technology to have something that people could actually use in their native apps. We're looking at doing something on iOS later this year, but it's necessarily a bit more limited.
Okay. Same thing? Do you do Android, iOS, or mainly iOS?
In terms of tablet devices, only iPad we're working on. In terms of own IP, we're only really investing in iOS. I just personally can't see why I would flush even more money down the toilet with anything outside of iOS at the moment.
Well, that was harsh.
It's true, though.
Bitter.
Same thing?
Actually, it's much simpler. Wherever our clients have customers, that's the platform that we'll build on.
Okay. And right now, where do they have customers for tablets?
On iOS, on Android sometimes, in tablets specifically, a little bit on Android, but yeah, by far and away, the iPad is obviously the biggest and the best.
Okay, so we kind of figured out who's got tablet, who doesn't. Next question I have is that you started hinting on that. What do they use it for? Is that the kind of thing that you started seeing in the various customers with the various customers you talked to, or the various applications that you've written so far? Go ahead.
The interesting thing about, and I've been doing mobile, as it were, for a long time now, is actually when tablets first came out, and it's sort of still the case, people thought that tablets were either a replacement for or were in mobile, whereas actually when you look at the way that people are using the tablets, they are mobile in the sense of they are using them wherever they are, but they're not necessarily using them walking down the street or in a mobile sort of environment. They are still very sedentary and sitting down and relaxed, and it's much more of an engaging experience as opposed to a sort of almost frantic experience that you get on a phone because you just want to get something done quickly. And I think that's a big difference in the way that mobile or the two different ways that you interact with the two different types of devices work. It's that much more relaxed, sort of in-depth experience as opposed to a much more frantic, quick fire.
I also find that one reason I did buy the iPad was, well, actually I've got my own iPad, and I also bought my 2-year-old kid an iPad as well, she was very happy about. And it's amazing how easily she can use it and how she knows how she can find her Peppa Pig apps, etc. But I find that using the iPad for educational reasons is a fantastic opportunity, and something that it's kind of only really started to be pushed more and more with the likes of companies like Tokaboka bringing out fantastic educational toys, as they call them, for children.
Yeah, well, we're really interested in text entry for tablets, and I think this is a huge fundamental question with regard to tablet usability. And I think people, the step up from the mobile to the tablet is all about content and all about being able to interact with the device in terms of feeding yourself. But there's another leap to be made in terms of creativity and generation. And we think that typing is really the thing that you have to solve for the tablet to make the next leap in productivity. But this is a really difficult problem. And
as in typing using the keyboard, you mean?
Yeah, as in getting text into the tablet, essentially, via any means. And yeah, I think if people can do that, and I think it will become a solution that is viable at some point over the next few years. I think it definitely isn't at the moment. And there's a lot of people thinking about what can be done to make this productive. And we're making some steps forward, but it's a really hard problem. But I think it's a fundamental one to the way people use tablets. If you could type as easy as a laptop, I think there's every chance that 80% of people could leave laptops behind.
So it's two different use cases. I mean, you've been talking about consumption mainly, but you're talking about creation. Do you think these are two different markets? The creation market being more an enterprise market, I think that's something we have kind of talked about in the past, where the tablet is a replacement that can go on the field of a laptop. When what you're talking about here is more entertainment, kind of consumer kind of usage.
Just to answer that one quickly, I don't think they are two different markets. I think, or at least if they are, they're heavily intersecting. I think creativity and what was the other one? What was the C word you used?
Did I use C word?
Consumption, that's the one. Yeah, I think consumption and creativity are so closely linked. I mean, if you're consuming something, it's natural to want to communicate that in some way. And also, consumption stimulates creativity. So I think these can't be two separate markets, but they're kind of artificially separated, I think, at the moment.
I think the introduction of the Adobe tools yesterday, was it, are going to be a really, really interesting way or new way of using tablets. I believe that tablets up till now have all been about actually giving you an experience that is better than a mobile phone and easier to use to navigate around than a laptop or a PC, and it allows you to do it wherever you are. But I think the new sort of tools, and it's taken a little bit of time for people like Adobe to actually be able to understand how you use that touch interface, which is a massively different interface to anything we've seen before. And beware the finger, because actually the finger is going to become much, much more important going forwards.
You mean tools to allow you to
create? Yeah. So in my time at Reuters, we produced some applications on mobile devices that allows our photographers to automatically upload content and photography and video to the web. It's something that bloggers do, on a day in, day out basis. But when you're trying to scale that up to 2,500 journalists producing high quality content that is then used by people like the BBC and The Guardian, it's a completely different beast, as it were, to try and get that to work. Now, with the addition of things like the Adobe tools, it'll be interesting because you'll then allow the photographers the ability to, slightly crop or slightly amend what they're doing, not change, but make slightly better their type of content, and then that will then be production ready, and that's what we're really interested in, is production ready content from a very small package, which I think will absolutely change the way it gets done in the future.
For those who haven't heard about announcement from Adobe and new tools, can you just summarize quickly what the tools are about?
So they came up with a suite of, racking my brains now, nice question. They came up with a suite of production tools, basically, for people to be able to edit photos. I can't remember if video was part of it or not, I don't think so. But photos and the process around editing imagery and Photoshop type files. So there's things like being able to demo applications, being able to demo presentations, being able to wrap their content that or wrap the creative content they produce and enable them to show their clients that content actually in situ. So it's a whole sort of workflow around the creation of content that is now you're able to do from an iPad.
Okay.
And also Android as well. I don't want to forget Android. I'll get hit. But that then absolutely changes the way that actually creative departments work, especially with the ability to demo, the ability to wireframe applications and services that they're going to then design. So,
and the reason you say it's an important thing is, did you see yourself changing completely the way you were designing and developing application, moving to tablets, and what have been the key learnings that you've done in the process?
There's the obvious difference being that it's a lot bigger, and you've got to assume that people are using the iPad in slightly different ways to the mobile. I certainly aren't so erratic when I've got my mobile, so I'm constantly checking everything. You assume that people have got a bit more time, and they use it maybe more in their leisure. And it's, coming back to the laptop versus iPad, I think for me, the laptop still very much evokes feelings of working, even though I love what I do, whereas the iPad is sort of removes that sort of thought of working, allows me to sort of consume a lot more. When we made our first iPad app, was called Granimator, which allows you to create your own wallpapers for the iPad and iPhone. Us being a sort of design-focused studio, we could have chosen to make that application on the iPhone, which would have had a far bigger audience. Certainly, as we launched it on the day the first iPad came out, so there's essentially no audience. But it just wouldn't have made any sense at all. And I think, for developers, you've really got to understand, the benefits of the bigger screen. And, if you're creating wallpapers and you're actually composing imagery, you need the bigger screen. So other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same.
So I think for us, we started thinking about how people use their tablets from a very physical perspective. And with regard to typing, clearly there are significant differences. So with a mobile phone, you can hold it in one hand and type with a thumb, but you absolutely can't do that with a tablet. And what people also tend to do with phones is to hold it with one hand and type with a finger, or hold it in two hands and type with two thumbs. But now if people are holding a tablet with two hands and typing with two thumbs, they can't reach the middle. So we actually launched a split QWERTY keyboard at the start of this year, and a few months before Apple copied us. But that
means it was a good idea, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So clearly that's a fundamental difference. If you're typing, you can't reach the middle of the keyboard, so you have to change the form factor. But we feel like that's really just the start of a journey in terms of interacting with your tablet via language. There are potentially whole new vistas that you can imagine. I mean, we kind of imagine a scenario where people are not typing the traditional sense, but are using different types of gestures to communicate with the device and to get words into it. And with Swiftkey, what we've done is to introduce a type of text-centric experience that's based around selecting words rather than typing characters. And so what we don't know is exactly what the right path forward is for tablets, but we're pretty sure that it's going to be different to smartphones and it's going to be different to standard keyboards.
I think what it comes down to when you're using one of these devices is actually how does it make you feel? I think Apple did an absolutely stunning job of changing the fact that it's not about processor speed, memory, amount of sort of stuff, or how fast it is, and is it smaller, quicker, faster. Over the last 20 years, everything's been about quicker and faster and smaller or bigger. Apple completely and utterly changed the game and made it about how you feel. And the perfect example of that almost is FaceTime. The fact that the advertising campaigns for FaceTime show a mother and the child, or show a dad and the child, and they actually show you looking at your child and playing things like peekaboo. And a friend of mine said it's the first time his mobile phone made him cry. It was because he was away for a couple of days. He saw his young child on FaceTime, and it was the first time that his child actually recognised his face and sort of pointed at the screen and went, "Da!" And he sort of played peekaboo, and the child smiled and then didn't smile, and then smiled and didn't smile. And as he put the phone down, he said he sat there and started crying and he said, it's the first time my mobile phone actually has made me cry. I never thought a piece of technology or a lump would actually do that. And when you compare that to, Nokia have had, video calling for centuries. When you compare that to actually saw in a user guide the picture of and it looks better when I've actually got a screen, but the picture of their 3G video calling, the actual example they used is of a video camera with a line through it because the other person doesn't have access to it. Now, that doesn't give you any type of sort of thrill to say that, well, you might be able to use it if you could possibly find someone else that might also have exactly the same phone as you. But Apple did a great job of removing the technical issues and saying this is about how you feel. And the iPad really is about how you feel when you're using a product. And people, developers really need to remember that about when they're creating their applications. It's much more about that immersive quality and not so much about actually can it make me do stuff quickly. It's funny that you say that you don't like using your Apple sort of. I moved away from an Apple to a PC at work because I did feel a little bit too relaxed in front of my Apple, and it was all about my photos at home and my videos that I edited. And I like having a PC and Outlook, to be honest, because that's when I was much more productive. Whereas my Apple at home, I have all my nice photos and all my video that I'm sort of relaxed in front of, and I think that's a really big difference in the way that you work with new technology, really.
And does that apply to your customers who are asking you
Absolutely.
for application? Do you also try to get them to be on that page?
They have to be, otherwise their rubbish branded app that is there to just promote a single campaign will last about a month without the enormous amount of money behind it to launch that product. I mean, you're doing a great job of the new product that you're trying to release at the moment, where you need to, it's much more about how it makes you feel as you play it and what you're doing with it, as opposed to just, it will do this widget really quickly and, oh, look, it's because it's a beer brand. That just doesn't work anymore.
Okay, so rather than me asking a question, I'm gonna open the question to the floor. We're gonna have mics going around, and we have our normal question asker. You'll have a present at the end for asking all these questions.
So the Apple Kindle Fire, is it going to make it a two-horse race?
Completely different products.
Why'd you say that? Sorry, did I say Apple? Amazon. Amazon Kindle Fire. Is it going to make the tablet market a two-horse race?
Again, I don't think you can compare it with the iPad. It's a completely different type of product, personally. It doesn't necessarily make it a two-horse race, but it makes it an interesting race, definitely.
Could you say a little bit more about that? Well, why it becomes an interesting race? I mean, how many? Is it a new market altogether?
It becomes a view on the Amazon wealth of products that they have, and it becomes a way of easily getting to that content. The things I read about it, that people say that Apple are a hardware company and have iTunes, for example, as a way of making you buy that, or an easy way to make you buy that hardware. Amazon the other way around, where they're creating the Kindle to enable you to easily buy many, many more books and video and content. So I think it's a slightly different take on the same type of idea, but I don't think the two devices are comparable at all. I think and it'd be interesting, all the rumours around Amazon buying Palm, would also add to the fact that it wouldn't be based around applications. I think Amazon are much more based around how they get you content or devices or services for you to be able to use, whereas the iPad, I think, is slightly differently thought about.
I have absolutely no idea why anybody would ever dream of not buying the iPad over anything else. I mean, I know that the Amazon Fire is a lot cheaper, and I guess that's probably a massive reason why you would. But, I mean, the iPad just makes you feel good. Everything else doesn't. It makes you feel pretty bad. I mean, I can barely take anyone seriously that has an Android device, even though I'm sitting next to someone who does have one. Just because I think
got all of them.
Everything about the user experience of what Apple have brought and to their devices is verging on perfection. I don't know. I just feel like crying now.
I've got some Kool-Aid if you want.
Yeah, Kool-Aid.
Yeah, the quick response. I think the potential tablet market is huge, but at the moment there's only really one device that makes sense. And to me, it's the same as in smartphones. Apple will certainly for the foreseeable future will always have that slice of the market. But at the moment, the problem is nobody else really has tablets because none of the other tablets are usable. So if Amazon or anybody else can come up with a tablet that delivers a reasonable user experience at a price point below the Apple, the iPad range, then there's a huge market out there. But it's not really a two-horse race. It's the question is who's going to take the rest of this huge potential market.
What I love about what Apple did is they told the users, they told me that if I buy one of their devices, then apps is the key reason I would do that, and they're pushing that down the throats of everyone. Whereas, everything else that came out from Samsung, etc., I never felt the marketing message really told me what I was doing with it or why I'd buy that device. I do have hope in terms of the whole industry in that Amazon are obviously extremely good at selling, and they want to sell their books, they want to sell their content. If anyone can do it, I hazard a guess that they can. If they can get that clear message to consumers that, buy this device and buy this, this is what you need to buy on it, then I think they've got a damn good chance. But still, we'll see.
And they're doing that because you don't see in any of their collateral that it is an Android device. They mentioned it once. You don't see the processor inside it. Who cares? Yeah. And the reason that Samsung and a few of the other manufacturers are falling down is because they say things like it's a dual core and you can have a Super AMOLED Plus screen. What the hell is a Super AMOLED Plus? And who cares?
Yeah, it's true.
The fact that you can see it in sunlight is brilliant, and actually brilliant. But why call it the most ridiculous name in the world?
Any other question?
Hi, I just wanted to ask, what do you guys think of pens on tablets? So be it on HTC or be it on the Samsung Note?
Pens, did you say?
Yeah, the pens. The
I
stylus,
didn't even know you could get a pen.
You should have a look. Kickstarter do some really good pens. There's a couple of projects. Pens are interesting for creative.
It does defeat the point, though, I think, of it being a touchscreen.
Can you draw with your finger?
Quite well.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a niche, but I think for certain styles of creative content it makes sense, but for the generic user, I don't think so.
So I know a cartoonist called Matt Hack, something like on Twitter. He'll kill me now for not knowing his name. Who uses a Windows tablet PC to be able to draw, and he goes to events and live draws, like you'd get in courts, live draws, and he's looking forward to moving to an iPad once there are the applications on there that allow you to draw effectively, and the tools to be able to, or the pen as it were, to be able to draw on it as well. So it opens up the canvas of an iPad, or that screen canvas, to a different audience, absolutely. And everyone took the mickey out of Nokia when they released like the N97, was it, with a little stylus? And they said, you don't need styluses anymore. But you forget that in Japan you do still need styluses, because their alphabet is enormous.
All right, we have time for a very short question. Otherwise, good once, good twice. Okay. Well, thank you guys.